The Colours of Forgiveness, Episode 2. Summer was drawing to an end. The hedges fell across the road, bursting their banks and causing cyclists and cars to converge in narrow lanes. The lambs were fat and their long-suffering mothers toppled as the greedy young pushed for the last drop of milk. Lucy felt her arm brush the hedge, her other hand holding Tom's. She felt the pleasure of his dry, warm palm holding hers. She sighed. "You okay?" asked Tom. He'd been watching her ever since that day. The colours had faded through the day, and Lucy tried to pretend it had been her imagination. But she knew it hadn't. She felt them waiting to return, as if she was supposed to do something, say something. "Yeah, I'm fine," she replied. She smiled at him, loving the kind twinkle in his eye. "Tom, let's go away for the weekend," she said. "Where?" he replied, always positive. She loved him for this. No why, just where. "Well, you know I've always wanted to go to Iona." She could feel its pull. Why? She had no connections with it. Her family were from here. Well, in France, of course. "Sam can look after the cats." "And the fish and the garden, the birds and the plants," he said, laughing. As she packed her bags later that day, Lucy sensed a shiver through her body. Oh, she thought. And there they were, on her hands, her arms, and when she looked down, all over her body. Greeny blue, sliding and flowing. Where were the pinks, she thought, blocking her mind from thinking any further. Her legs felt funny. She flopped down onto the bed, hearing the creak as the old mattress gave way. Her fingers found the soft blanket her mother had given her so long ago. She stroked its downy, furry surface. And suddenly the pinks came, pinks of all different shades, flowed up her fingertips and joined with the greeny blues until the whole kaleidoscope of colour was here once more. She took a deep breath and spoke. "Okay, what are you? Why are you here? Again?" The colours shimmered and rippled and resettled over her arms and legs, and in the mirror she could see them encircling her once more. A coat of colour, a blanket, a cage? No, a shield, she felt them whisper. Her mouth went dry. It was true what they said. Your mouth could go dry in a second. So, a shield. Against what? She spoke to them again. Silence. Perhaps she'd imagined that whisper. They drove hard, Thomas wanting to get there by supper time. Glasgow rushed by and Lucy wished they had more time, but she fell asleep somewhere between Glasgow and the sea. "Lucy!" Tom was shaking her. "What?" she said. Her dream had been delicious. "No, Lucy, we're here. Come on. I did your driving stint, but you're definitely helping me unpack the car." Lucy opened the door and fell out. As she picked her sleepy body up, she smelt the air. It was alive. It was fresh and clean. She felt her body drinking it in. "Tom, it smells fantastic here," she said. Tom sniffed. "Yeah, it smells okay," he replied, scurrying off to source food. Lucy stood, holding her bag. The car was clicking as the metal cooled off. A journey well done, she thought, and patted the bonnet, feeling slightly guilty she'd only driven the first 2 hours. She was getting used to them now, her cloud of colour, like a familiar pair of earrings. Her eyes were adjusting to the glimpses if she moved fast, or watching them with interest when she washed her hands in the loo. She put out her hand now and looked at them in the dusky light. They were actually quite beautiful. Tom came rushing out. "Come on, Lucy, I'm starving." Lucy dumped her bags and sat for a second on the bed. "Okay, tomorrow, Iona, and perhaps I'll find some answers to you there," she said, wondering if she ought to stop speaking to them, as if it were a perfectly natural thing to do. She put on some lipstick, grabbed her bag, and ran down the tiny staircase 2 at a time. "Keep up then," she said, laughing, and she and the colours ran out to meet Tom in the fresh Scottish night air. To be continued.